Hey everyone, so today we're tackling Stoicism. You've probably heard about it, right? It's this ancient philosophy that is suddenly everywhere. I mean, from Silicon Valley execs to pro athletes, it seems like everyone's tapping into this 2,000-year-old mindset. But here's the big question. Is it this amazing tool for becoming more resilient, or is it a sneaky path toward just giving up? Let's dig in and find out.
And this quote right here from the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius really gets to the heart of why Stoicism is so popular today. The idea is that our internal world, our judgment about things, is where the real power is. It's this pretty radical idea that says you can reframe your suffering, not by changing the world around you, but just by changing your mind about it.
And let's be real, in our world of nonstop notifications, political chaos, and just information overload, the promise of control is incredibly appealing. Stoicism basically offers a blueprint for how to find a calm little harbor in the middle of a raging storm, which is exactly why so many people are turning to it for answers.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the promise of Stoicism, the good stuff. Then we'll pivot and look at the psychological side effects, explore some of the philosophy's darker, more controversial corners, and finally, we'll tackle that big question. Is this whole thing leading to real resilience, or is it just a kind of quiet surrender?
So first up, let's talk about that promise. What are the core ideas behind Stoicism that people are finding so incredibly powerful for, mastering their own inner world? At its core, Stoicism is really about living in harmony with the natural way of things. It teaches this powerful idea that the only thing that's truly good is virtue, stuff like wisdom, courage, and justice. Everything else, from money to your health, is considered neutral, neither good nor bad. So the goal is to face challenges without complaining by focusing all your energy only on what you can actually influence, not on all the stuff you can't. And the actual practice of it boils down to this pretty simple three-step process. First, you draw a line in the sand. On one side are your thoughts, your judgments, and your actions. On the other side is, everything else. Other people, the weather, even your own health. Step 2 is about radical acceptance of everything on that other side. And then, step 3 is to focus all of your energy on acting with integrity on the few things you can control.
But this really practical approach brings up a huge question, one that modern psychology is super interested in. What happens when enduring without complaint crosses a line into something, a lot less healthy?
And this is really the central conflict, isn't it? The Stoics were all about mastering your emotions so you can live a good, virtuous life. But modern psychology constantly warns us about the dangers of just bottling things up. So where's the line between healthy self-control and just unhealthy suppression?
Okay, and this is where things get really interesting from a psychological standpoint. We're looking at a clear chain reaction here. Research shows that when people habitually suppress their emotions, just push them down, they tend to have a lower tolerance for frustration. And when your frustration tolerance goes down, the likelihood of aggressive behavior goes up. It's a direct, measurable link.
And this isn't just a theory. For example, studies on teenagers found that the ones who regularly pushed down their anger were way more likely to get into physical fights and have disciplinary problems in school. The act of suppression doesn't make the feeling just disappear. It just redirects it. And sometimes, the results are pretty explosive.
And that leads us into some of the more complex and, honestly, kind of unsettling critiques of Stoicism. These go beyond just the psychological stuff and get right into moral philosophy. This slide here shows a major philosophical clash. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche basically argued that the Stoics got it all wrong. By treating hardship as something you just have to endure, he said they missed the entire point. For Nietzsche, struggle isn't some obstacle to be avoided. It's the very thing we use to forge our strength. You don't just endure suffering, you use it. And this creates a huge ethical problem. In Stoicism, anything outside your own mind, your health, your wealth, even the suffering of other people, is called an indifferent. That means it can't technically affect your inner virtue. But if that's true, what's the motivation to be good to other people? If their pain is an indifferent, why bother being just? Why be kind? And the philosophy's hard edges don't really stop there. Stoicism's view on suicide is often really misunderstood. It wasn't seen as an act of emotional despair. It was seen as a potential outcome of pure, cold reason, a final act of control. The philosopher Seneca put it just like this: For him, the goal wasn't just to live, but to live well. And if living a virtuous life becomes totally impossible, then a good death could be seen as a rational escape from the certainty of a bad life.
Now, to be super clear, this wasn't some blanket approval. The Stoics had very, very specific conditions. A rational exit was only considered an option if a virtuous life was no longer possible, or maybe as a final act of protest against a tyrant. The absolute key was that it had to be a choice made with a clear mind, completely free of emotion or despair.
Okay, so let's try to bring all this together. How do these ancient ideas, both the inspiring ones and the really troubling ones, apply to our world today? And how do we walk that fine line between building strength and just accepting things we really shouldn't?
You know, modern psychology actually has a term for what can happen when resilience goes too far. It's this idea that being too good at enduring hardship can actually trap you. You might stay in a soul-crushing job or a toxic relationship way longer than you should have, simply because your tolerance for adversity has gotten so high.
And this is exactly where that Stoic idea of indifference can be dangerous if it's misunderstood. See, Stoicism preaches a calm detachment from things outside our control, but a total lack of concern for others can become a real problem. It's a good reminder that empathy is critical. Without it, a philosophy of inner peace could easily become a justification for just ignoring the very real suffering in the world. This forces all of us to ask a really tough personal question. Is the resilience you're building in your own life making you genuinely stronger and more virtuous? Or is it just making you better at putting up with situations that you really should be trying to change?
So when it comes down to it, Stoicism is best seen as a powerful tool. And like any sharp tool, you can use it with incredible skill to build a life of virtue and inner peace. Or it can be misapplied, leading to emotional suppression, social indifference, and just resigning yourself to a fate you should be fighting against. The real wisdom is in using it to gain perspective, not to shut everything down.
Which leaves us with this final, challenging question. How can we use these ancient ideas to become strong enough to endure what we have to, without becoming so hardened that we stop caring about the world and the people in it? That right there is the balance we all have to try and find.